Welcome to the newest edition of the Before You Bet Racing Preview, brought to you this week by Palmerbet. I'm your host, Tim Geers, joined by Before You Bet's newest racing rider, Trent Crebbin. Trent, how are you?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well over here in the West, with a few of the coronavirus restrictions being lifted recently. Hopefully, before too long, all the crowds will be back at the races. Speaking of the races, we'll be taking a look at this weekend's action at Eagle Farm in Brisbane. We've got Moonee Valley, the return to the Valley in Melbourne, which Trent will be taking us through, and Sydney racing at Rosehill Gardens. As I've just mentioned, you'll be taking a look at the Moonee Valley card. You're glad to be back at the Valley?
Yeah, it's first Valley preview that I've done for Before You Bet, so I'm really keen to get stuck into it, and it looks to be a really good card, better than the ones we've had recently.
After a few months off, do you have any kind of thoughts about how the track might play this week, rail in the 4 metre position at the Valley?
Yeah, look, you see the Valley and you kind of just instantly default that on speed's going to be suited just with the tight turning track, the short straight. And I think it'll be no different on Saturday. The rail out 4 metres, I'd expect on pace rails to be probably pretty good early. But yeah, monitor it as usual.
As I said, over in Brisbane, we're at Eagle Farm. A bit unpredictable, the Eagle Farm track at the moment, especially with a little bit of rain predicted on Friday and Saturday. The rail there's out 5 metres. Obviously, it normally allows for horses to run on from the back of the field, but with a few mils of rain, it's a little bit hard to predict how much the track's going to chop out, whether the rail is going to be the place to be, and whether they are going to be able to make ground. So it'll be interesting to pay attention to the first few races. And over at Rosehill, we're on a heavy night at the moment. The rail's in the true position. Generally, inside and on speed at Rosehill tends to be favoured, but late in the day, we might see them coming off the rail and down the outside of the track again. Another one to monitor throughout the day. Now, as I said, the show this week is brought to you by Palmerbet. They've just brought out a new product called the Bookie Bag. This is basically an exclusive and personalised products and promotions for existing Palmerbet customers. So if you want to know more about the Palmerbet Bookies Bag, head over to beforeyoubet.com.au and you can find out more details. But we'll be using those tools in some of our best bets this weekend, and we'll take you through our best bets for Eagle Farm, Moonee Valley and Rosehill. We'll start up in Brisbane. The Group 1 action's all over, but we've still got a really solid 9-race card on our hands at Eagle Farm. My best bet of the day is going to come up in race number 7. It's Celestial Falls, currently at $4.40 with Palmerbet. I was on this filly last start where she was run down very late by Vanna Girl in the listed Pam O'Neill Stakes. Now, they clash again today. It's pretty hard to tip against Vanna Girl, but I'm going to tip against her again with Celestial Falls. So I think she just had to do a little bit too much work second up there last start when she got run down late. She was only beaten about half a length. I think she's got a better draw today in barrier 4. She should be able to find a position on speed pretty easily. And Vanna Girl from barrier 13, she's going to have to run them down all again from probably, she's going to be somewhere near last in the field. The other thing that concerns me a little bit with Vanna Girl is, firstly, how long she's been up now. The stable were saying last start, I think, Trent, you alluded to me off air, that the stable was saying that potentially she was going for a spell after her last start, but she comes here again and lines up 2 weeks after that victory in the Pam O'Neill. Whereas Celestial Falls, she's still only third up from a spell, and she does have a proven record on wet ground. That's the one thing that Vanna Girl probably hasn't ticked off yet is if the rain does arrive, every single one of her career starts has been on good ground. You in the same camp, Trent, or have you seen it similarly or differently?
No, I think you're spot on there. I'm pretty keen on Celestial Falls as well. I couldn't really split them going into last start, and I thought their runs were equally as good. Celestial Falls just working a bit early, and Vanna Girl coming from the back. Celestial Falls has also proven at 1800, third up, perfect draw. I think she's the percentage play, whereas Vanna Girl might be a better horse, but she's going to have to come from a long way back. So yeah, I'm happy to be in the camp of Celestial Falls at the price for sure.
And it's a good point you make about the 1800. As I said, she's still only third up from a spell. 1800, of course, we saw her win, probably her best career win last preparation at Flemington. So I just think third up, more to come, probably more improvement from that last start effort up to an ideal distance. And with those slight queries about Vanna Girl, I'd just rather take the $4.40 at Palmerbet for Celestial Falls. The horse I will save on in the race is Sky Horse. It's a Kieran Maher and David Eustace trained. Ryan Maloney takes the ride, draws well. He comes out of the Gunsynd Classic behind Super Giant. And I probably would be wary of him at around $6.50. My best value bet at Eagle Farm, race number 3, Tatsy at $14 with Palmerbet. This horse just had a little blowout at the Gold Coast first up. It was beaten, I think he ran third in a field of 5, but he now steps up to Eagle Farm, second up from a spell. He's had 2 starts at this track and distance. He's won them both. I think overall he's had 7 starts at Eagle Farm. He's only missed a placing once from those 7 occasions. We saw Chris Waller be successful last weekend at Eagle Farm. I think he had 2, maybe 3 winners on the card. And I think you'll see, particularly with this horse, in preparations gone past, I think first up last preparation, he was beaten at Ipswich and then came out second up and won at Eagle Farm. So the negative is he draws barrier 20, so he's likely wide draw, Waller runner going to be back in the field. But he does have a little bit of form on wet ground, and as I said, undefeated at the track and distance. So $14 for him, I reckon, is a reasonably good bet. And I've made him my best value of the day, race number 3, Tatsy. We'll get over to Melbourne now, Trent. Moonee Valley, as I said, rail currently in the 4-metre position, track currently rated a soft 6. And your best bet, you're keen on one in race number 8.
Yeah, so race 8, we've got Django Freeman for Craig Williams, the Hickmott stable. It's a German import, and it's had a year off recently. Came over to Australia to target some of the big races, Cox Plate and the Cups Double. It was actually a favourite for some of those races early on before getting injured, and came back a couple of weeks ago at Flemington over 1600 on pretty wet ground. And I thought its run was full of merit. It finished third behind Reykjavik and Shot of Irish. Both horses were pretty handy and in good form. Sat handy to the speed, and they went really quick. Most of the other leaders dropped right out to finish 8-9 lengths adrift, and he just stuck on really well. I think up to the 20-40 metres here will be good. William sticks back onto softer or drier ground than the heavy you saw last start is going to be a positive. I don't like barrier 1. It's not ideal with the Valley. I've sort of got him mapped probably leaders back. If he can try and get off the fence early before the straight comes up, I think he'll be winning. I think he's definitely the best horse in the race. It's just a couple of slight knocks to stop me from declaring him, but I think he's the best on the card.
It's funny you mentioned barrier 1 there. I think we were just speaking about it earlier, that barrier 1 on paper seems very good in a number of races and people seem to rave about it, but particularly at Moonee Valley, where you do have that short straight and, horses making moves from around the 800 or the 600. Often those horses in barrier 1 can kind of be strung up behind those leaders and then find themselves in awful traffic coming around the turn. So that poses some concern for you, obviously.
It does a little bit. Ideally he'd be somewhere midfield, like a middle draw barrier, but he's got Williams on, who is probably the best rider that we have in Australia of navigating those inside barriers. Some of the rides he produces, you just step back and say, how did he do it? I think he'll want to win on this horse because he'll want to keep the ride for spring. So I think that's probably another positive there, that he doesn't want to put in a negative one. I think if he gets off and gets clear running, he's closer to an even money shot, $2.50 shot. So the $4 at Palmerbet, I think, is more than reasonable.
Very good. And your best value bet, you're getting stuck in early in the day. Race number 1, horse number 10, Island Joy, currently an $11 chance at Palmerbet.
Yeah, so I was on this one last start at Caulfield, and it was just a horrible day to lead. There was 40-kilometre headwinds. The inside fence, a couple of lanes were not ideal ground, and it was just on the inside, leading into the wind. And I thought it stuck on okay. Only the last 100 metres or so did it really drop out, and they all just swooped from the back. I really liked its maiden win at Cranbourne. It sat 3 wide, no cover, and just powered away from them easily in fast time. Draws a bit wide here, gets Jamie Carr on, which I think is a positive. Keeps Jamie Carr, which is a positive, and just looks across and maybe sit outside the lead on this occasion. I think it'll run really well.
And I think that's key, the speed mapping, particularly in Moonee Valley, much like we just alluded to with barrier 1 being a negative. Often people see wide barriers for on-speed horses or wide barriers for any horses as a negative, but wide barriers for on-speed horses, particularly at Moonee Valley, is many times a positive because they can kind of just slide across and find a position on speed, and with the short straight, they can kind of be there for a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the longest. The 1200 meter start isn't the longest run to the first turn, but I think the horse is quick enough to get across to a good spot. Jamie Carr did say after its last run that it might be better suited taking a sit because it raced a bit greenly when it was leading into that wind as well, which probably didn't help. So if she can just slot in, even potentially one out, one back isn't impossible from that gate. I think she'll run really well.
Very good. And if you want to see Trent's full preview for Moonee Valley, make sure you head to beforeyoubet.com.au, head to the horse racing section, and you'll see his full Moonee Valley preview and tips for Saturday. We'll get over to Sydney now, and we're at Rosehill. As I said, we're racing on a heavy 9 with the Rail True. I found it very difficult to come up with a solid best bet this week. I was very keen last weekend on Opacity in the last, but this week it looks a very, very difficult card overall. I ended up settling on race number 7, and I'm in the corner of Lashes. We see Lashes and Adelong go head-to-head once again for, I think, the 3rd or 4th time now. I've gone in the corner of Lashes here. She did run second to Adelong first up from a spell. We've since seen Adelong come out and win again. So the form's obviously good. It's hard to tip against Adelong. She's obviously flying and has returned really well. But I'm just leaning towards Lashes for a few different reasons. First of all, we're back on the heavy 9. We know Lashes handles the heavy 9 track well. Not to say Adelong doesn't, because she's won from one on the heavy ground, but the heavy ground certainly plays favourably for Lashes. And second up from a spell here, dropping 6 kilos or getting a 6 kilo weight swing on Adelong, I think could be the proving factor. She's probably going to improve from that first up run. At least you would hope she would. Adelong's now had, as I said, an extra run since they last met. So you would think Lashes has the improvement to come. Second up, and as I said, with a 6 kilo weight swing, which is quite substantial and pretty significant. I think that could be enough just to turn the tables, and I'd rather take the $3.60 on offer with Palmerbet rather than the shorts about Adelong on this occasion. Just hopefully she doesn't get too far back from barrier 8. Karen McAvoy on board. But I'm going to stick with her. I think I was against her to beat Adelong first up from a spell. And with those factors, I think I have to be with her once again, just at the better price. So race 7, Lashes on top. Trent, I think you're in the same boat as me.
Yeah, I was with Adelong when they met last. I've got a lot of time for Adelong. But I do agree. I think Lashes can turn the tables today. That second up record and heavy track record is excellent. I think there's a bit of speed here as well. There's a few horses that'll push forward. Carlise will probably kick up from barrier 1. Miss Invincible probably comes across from barrier 14. So Adelong's not going to get it all her own way. Kieran McAvoy can probably just sit, one off the fence, maybe 3 wide with cover midfield, hopefully. And I think she'll probably prove too strong. She's been well supported early with Palmerbet, opened $4.40 into $3.60. I think that's a good guide. So I'm pretty keen on her.
Best value of the day at Rosehill. Again, I had to toss up between a few. And I think it overall is a day that you're going to find a little bit of value. As I said, it's not really a card where anything stands out. However, I do think there are quite a few bets throughout the day that are at kind of each way odds. And I've made my best value bet of the day, race number 3, high-low bet at $18 with Palmerbet. Chris Waller trained horse. Brenton Avadala takes the ride, replacing James McDonald, which is probably why we're getting the better price. I think if J-Mac was riding this horse, it'd probably be half that quote maybe. Look, she's not done a great deal in her first 2 races. However, she does have a very good third up record with 2 wins and a placing from 4 starts. She's a wet tracker. She loves the soft and heavy ground. She doesn't go particularly well on good ground, so she's definitely going to be getting conditions to suit. She's a swimmer, as I said, ready to peak now, third up from a spell with that good record. And I think there looks a reasonable amount of speed. So she's probably going to be going back from barrier 13. I think she's drawn. She'll be back towards last. Hopefully they can run on at Rosehill. If it were Randwick, I'd probably be a bit more confident. But on the heavy ground, hopefully they are able to run on. And I think she'll be hitting the line hard. Hopefully they'll run along up front a little bit. As I said, there does look a little bit of speed in the race. So it should set up for her to run on. if she's ever going to, find form or find a race to win, this could be it. So I think $18. It is a very open race. There's a lot of good horses involved, but I just thought the $18 was over the odds. So race number 3, High Low Bet, is my best value of the day. Have you got any thoughts on that race?
Yeah, it's a pretty tough race. It's very open, so I don't mind something at odds. Like High Low Bet is. Just interesting to note as well, she's on the quick backup and has actually won on the quick backup before. When Waller does that, it kind of can be an idea that the horse is ready to peak. He is to third up. With a good record on the backup, I think there's definitely worse plays. And at $18 in Palmerbet, I think it's a pretty good price.
Yeah, and it is a tricky race. You look through the field, Bound to Win looks the horse to beat. I'd suggest that she's a deserved favourite and has been backed accordingly in the early betting. She'd probably be my top selection in the race, but obviously the $18 about High Low Bet looks a decent price. But you've got other horses in there like Word for Word we saw go well last weekend. She's another that comes in here on the quick backup. Miss Einstein, she's always kind of around the mark, but she's starting to become a little bit costly. And then you get down to the likes of Maggie Miss. She's another that will go forward, probably lead and be in there for a long way. But hopefully a horse like Maggie Miss does set it up for something like High Low Bet running on from the back of the field. Now, as I said, you can find all of our previews for all 3 meetings, Eagle Farm, Moonee Valley and Rosehill on beforeyoubet.com.au. Every race covered, best bets covered, and hopefully a stack of winners for you this weekend. Good luck on the punt. Trent, thanks for joining us, and all the best to you at the Valley on Saturday.
No worries. Thanks, Tim.